Oh man, I have been looking forward to this for quite some time because this is going to be so interesting, man. This is a hot topic, and I've got my friend JonahStormRider here. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Okay, why can't I hear Jonah? So let's look
Because
here.
I'm muted. That's my fault.
Nice, man.
That's the phone
Nice.
booth boys. I do it all the time.
Oh yeah, you got that little hot button on the top of that Yeti
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
I
That's what I
got
get
you.
for trying to be respectful. I mute myself out.
I know. I get it, man. I get it. I muted myself over here on the Roadcaster as well. So, dude, tell me a little about yourself. I know you got your own podcast and you're part of a group of guys that I admire greatly for being like the frat party of the podcast universe. So fill me in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, they're such good dudes, and like what I appreciate so much about the culture that's being built, and it all started on the foundation that Ted built, and then with Vince, right? But they built this beautifully honest and authentic podcast where it was just guys having conversations that you would have in your living room, very honest and authentic, and for everybody to see like flies on the wall, right? And then they welcomed me into the fold along with Snoop, who was there before me, I believe, quite a bit before perhaps. But anyway, so it's just been a blast to kind of just riff with these guys, and it's the raw authenticity that is the most beautiful thing because, like you were saying, it's like you call it a frat boy, right? Like it's just there's such a authenticity, but also none of us are afraid to disagree with each other because nobody ever gets offended, and so you just have this really beautiful open communication. So it what first was a podcast and a live stream has now become 5 or 4 podcasts and a live stream, and there's more to come. So we're just building, and it's great. It's a lot of work, but there's a lot of passion and heart behind it, and especially Ted and Vince just put their whole heart into it, and we all do in our different ways with our different skill sets. But anyway, so I know you and I met through your good friend Snoop Von Poop, who has his own podcast on Tuesday nights. Here's the thing. Um, and obviously, yeah, thanks, Snoop. Speak of the devil, here he is in the comments. um, but anyway, so yeah, you can find him at 6 p.m. I'm trying to plug you, Snoop. Come on.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time.
There you go. so, so then, and then obviously, the main phone booth podcast with Ted and Vince interviewing various folks that comes on Monday. And then I've got my Wednesday, 7 p.m. We'll go live, 7 p.m. Eastern, go live with the Philosopher King podcast. And really that's all about, especially backed by Greek thought and like very logical, critical thinking, looking to build and discern truth and try to sort through all the lies that we're inundated here, right? And then Vince has his podcast on Fridays, the Dualistic podcast. So we've got just a lot of really beautiful things, kind of everybody with their own unique angle. Haywood and I do the Pick Is In on Saturday nights after our live stream, where we just talk football because he's big into football. I love sports betting. I know you're in Vegas.
Yeah, but I'm not a sports guy. Believe it or like I can watch baseball and not be bored by it. I kind of grew up on it. My dad's a huge
Uh-huh.
baseball fan, but I don't generally watch sports. And I think for the first time in as long as I can remember, I finally sat down with my dad and watched a football game. And some of it was fascinating, but I just don't get it. I'm not a sports guy.
So
So
what's funny is I'm not a huge sports guy either, but I'm a conspiracy guy. So I love trying to figure out the conspiracy within the sport, and so
Deflate
that's why.
Gate.
Exactly. So that for me is the challenge, to try to figure out what, if it's fixed or if not.
Right.
If it's fixed, who's to win. Anyway, so it's a lot of fun. But all those podcasts and everything, phoneboothpodcast.substack.com. You can find us there. Free subscription. But no, I really appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to be here and talk about the beautiful thing we're going to talk about.
I know. And you know what's funny is I have a friend of mine, and I've known this guy. His name's Tony. And I've known this guy since like I'm gonna say 1990. So it's 35 years I've known this guy. And we're both huge Trump fans, right? And through thick or thin, man, if something's not going right, we got to stick with them and it'll work itself out. I believe that. And so Tony started, he's like, one day he sends me this link, you've got to watch this video. And it was the Great Awakening video. And I'm watching it and I'm just going, holy shit. Is this what's really going on? Because they portray it as, they make the connections like this is what's going on. This has been going on underneath for all this time. These people are guilty of those things. They're going to face justice. They're going to be perp walked. This, the world is like this because this is what's going on underneath it. And it just blows my mind. I watched that video and I didn't know what to make of it at first. It was just so much to take in, but it made sense. So whether it's real or not, it made sense. It's kind of like you watch it and, being a conspiracy theory guy, like I don't go down rabbit holes, but I love it. Like huge X-Files guy. Like I love stuff like that. Right. And obviously with my podcast, I talk about a lot of crazy shit like that. But when it comes to conspiracy theories, I'm all about, oh yeah, dude, they put fluoride in the water because of this, I'm not Alex Jones, they're making frogs turn gay conspiracy guy. But I mean, I love all of that shit, UFO crashed in Roswell and we kept it hidden and there's shit at Area 51 because I'm in Vegas. I mean, I was in high school when Bob Lazar came out. And then, the Bob Lazar, and it was here. It was like our own thing, and then we had Art Bell, God rest his soul. And so, I mean, his show was conspiracies, structures on the moon and the face on Mars and, chemtrails, you name it. And, he didn't get too much into politics during that time just because he had done politics for years and years before he did the show, before he did Coast to Coast AM and then Dreamland, where he talked about some of the. So how could I not get into conspiracy theories? Listening and X-Files and going and just buying every book I could find on UFOs and the Montauk Project and which led into MK Ultra. And I mean, Jesus Christ, one thing after another, and then we kind of get into, it kind of slows down a little bit. And, during Barack Obama stuff, you don't really hear too much about it. And then Trump decides that he's going to run for president. Then all of a sudden 4chan QAnon hits, with that first drop. And it blew up. People didn't know what to think of it. But it just showed that there were so many people that could tune into something like that wanted it to be true.
Yeah. No, it's true. And what's interesting is it actually starts, the whole QAnon saga starts before he even accepts the nomination. It's long before it's official. So he announced his candidacy on June 16th of 2015, right? And then already on October 13th, he posts a meme of himself as a frog. So he looks green with the American flag. Do you remember this? And he's got the golden hair, but he's got his hand up very conspicuously. The frog does. On his chin like this, right? It's a very conspicuous pose. But the quote says, "You can't stump the Trump."
Right.
Well, so fast forward in different moments when he accepts the nomination on the 21st of July, I believe it was, the GOP nomination. During his speech, he conspicuously did that same Pepe the Frog pose, right? Pepe the Frog has become the symbol of QAnon, right? So it's super, super interesting. And yeah, I'd have to show you. I could share a link or something of the image. It's fascinating. But it's clear that what he's doing, right? And so then fast forward to there was a number of other little small communications that people argued about whether or not they were related to Q, but ultimately during that whole exchange on 4chan, before Q made his official first post, and an Anon, they call him, right? Not QAnon, that's a misnomer, right? But one of the Anons on 4chan, that's where it started, said, hey, Trump, if you're actually here, which is what a lot of people are thinking, please, and you like this meme or this message that this person shared, they're like, please use the word amazing somehow in your next tweet. 5 hours later, Trump tweets and says, Colorado was amazing yesterday. So this just fueled the conspiracy, right?
Right. And that's, I mean, it's so wild that you could, have a post and it says something, and then 2 years later something happens, and people that are into this heavily immediately go, if you go back to drop number such and such, it correlates to what just happened, and that drop might have been 2 years ago. And it's wild. And some stuff you're like, holy shit, that's exactly correct. And then other things is a bit of a stretch. But I mean, there's videos of Trump giving, pointing at people in the crowd and giving the Q sign, and I don't know. Part of me, because I'm always skeptical, right? So part of me believes that it was just something created to get people behind him and help him get elected.
Right.
And regardless, I think that's part of it. Any way you slice it, because it obviously did help, because people grabbed onto it, and I mean, obviously he got elected, and then they just threw everything but to the kitchen, even the kitchen sink, at him for the next 8 years. And they're still trying to this day, even though I think he's got him over the barrel a little bit with this government shutdown. But I mean, there's, there, then the whole thing with Q turned into, well, Trump's behind it, and there's these white hats in the military, and they're secretly arresting all these people, and all these people have already been shipped off to Gitmo and hung, and Hillary Clinton's dead already because she's been hung, and it's an imposter, and all of these crazy things. And then one of the memes was JFK's bell on his boat, where we go one, we go all, right? And then everybody's like, oh my God, it's JFK Jr. JFK Jr. is still alive. And I know, dude, I'm just rattling off and getting into so many things, but that's such a huge part of it.
No, it is. And I mean, there's a lot within the Q following, so to speak, all the Anons who were trying to, because here's the thing, it's like, to draw an analogy to something better known, right? When we talk about, let's just say you and I buy the premise of sports being fixed. We might both conclude that a different team wins tonight's match, for example, based on what we've thought were the signs that this or that person was destined to, or fixed to win, right? But just because one of us is wrong and one of us right doesn't necessarily take away from the fact that it is fixed. So it doesn't. It just means that we didn't understand the message properly, right?
Right.
But like one of the things that Q says all throughout the history of the drops, again and again and again and again, is future proofs past, future proofs past. So as these things were being said and dropped over the years, people were like, nothing ever happens. He said there would be arrests this day. Nothing has happened. It's all a LARP, right?
Right.
But then you come to something like, and I'm going to go ahead and share this, because this I want everybody to see.
Right.
because this was just last month. It came true.
Right.
So this is where, I mean, we even have Dmitriev, one of the top diplomats in Russia right now, is now tweeting and quoting Q posts. This is how real this is right now. So any doubt should no longer be. But this post 2263, it says, and it was on September 21st, and it says, fake news about to shift narrative against their masters in an effort to weather the storm. Panic everywhere. Patriots are ready. Enjoy the rally at the Q tonight. Do you remember what was September 25th, 21st last month?
Yeah, that's when Charlie Kirk he got shot on the 10th, right?
He got shot on the 10th, but the rally at that stadium was on the 21st.
That's right.
That stadium is called by all the locals the Q. So when it says enjoy the rally at the Q tonight, it's wild. Right. Already there's a lot of suspicious circumstances. The narrative for Charlie's alleged assassination don't check out. The official narrative of it being a lone sniper, that was clearly an exit wound. If he was killed, and if it wasn't somehow CGI, AI, dummy, who knows? A complicit fake, who knows? But it's part of the plan, clearly.
Right. And I saw something over the last few weeks, I think maybe like a week or something ago, I saw a headline in a story on the net, and it had something to do with the fact that they had rented that stadium out a long time ago.
Back in May.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And if you watch, I mean, the video, I don't buy the official story either. And what bums me out with the Charlie Kirk official story is that I'm a huge Dan Bongino guy. Listen to him every day when he was on the radio. So to me, I mean, every day, dude, for like the past, since Trump was in office the first time. So like since 17, I listened to Bongino every single day. So to me, he's part of the family, you know, and to hear them come out and say, you know, to push the official narrative and then people not buy it, and then Bongino and Cash have to backstep a little bit and say, hey, you know, we're broadening the investigation a little bit. It's hard for me to believe that Bongino would purposely mislead people on something like that. But I sit there and I watch, you know, we've all seen every single video. We've seen the video of the chair falling through the table.
Yeah.
Right. And to me, I just don't buy the fact that some kid shot him from 150 yards away. I don't buy it.
And one thing that I've learned with tracking the whole Q thing, because I was on board. So the first official Q post, signed Q, was October 28th, 2017. And I was probably on board and following closely every drop the 29th to the 30th.
Right.
I just happened to come across a YouTube video and it perked my interest. It was called Tracy Beans, I think was her name. And she was super analytical. She was like, this is a LARP and I'm going to prove it. And I'm like, okay, I like this attitude. Let's disprove something. Let's question the validity of something before we just get swept off swept off our feet like a young lady, let's not fall in love with this conspiracy idea just yet, and but every time she tried to refuse, she's like, oh my goodness, because there were times literally when they would say, like Q would say, resolve, like one of the Anons would ask Q, what about the nuclear crisis? And he'd be like, resolved in 11/11. And then Trump goes to Beijing to meet Xi Jinping, and instead of Xi Jinping, right? He misspelled it in his tweet, Xi Jinping, So X instead of J. XI
Right.
is Roman numerals for 11.
Right.
And so it was 1111. And so when and that post, he said he was announcing that he had a very successful meeting regarding North Korea and Iran with Xi Jinping. But he misspelled it, left it up for a few minutes so that everybody could see it, deleted it, and reposted it with the proper spelling. And that happens a lot. Trump will post something with an intentional misspelling, pull it down. But one thing that's really cool, so it's like that. So the whole QAnon thing it's been a learning process, because the esoteric, the occult, the globalists, the whatever you want to call them, right? The stone cutters. I know we're live on YouTube, so I'm not going to use the free word.
Oh,
The
yeah,
stone cutters, right?
Don't worry, I've done it in the past. Just the other night when I was in Greenfield, so I don't think anybody hurt me.
The apron wearing stone cutters,
Right?
right?
Those guys.
Exactly, them guys. So they have all their code, they have all their ways of communicating and everything else like that. Fine, good for them, whatever, right? But Q basically was like, all right, learn the code, and taught us the code. And so there was, it's also like timestamps of when, like, Dan Scavino posts something, the timestamp will reference a post, and it's mind blowing how often it's precisely describing what's going on or what's about to happen. It's incredible.
Right. And I think it's happened so often that it's more than a coincidence at this point. Now, whether it's a psyop, like we were talking about before we went live, whether it's a psyop or not, I mean, that's one of the things that they're trying to poo-poo it. Oh, it's just a big psyop. It's the biggest psyop ever perpetrated on the American public. Look at that. The dummy MAGA deplorables believe in something, So when we sit here and we look at and read all of these things that these people are guilty of, and then we hear these things about, Hillary Clinton going to Gitmo, or all these things, and we want it to be true because we feel like we've been screwed over for so long. We want things to be fixed. And I think with the QAnon movement, everybody at the beginning, and you'll attest to this, everybody at the beginning got so excited about it because they're like, all right, shit's going to hit the fan,
Because you'd be in jail.
Right. Yes. Right. Because you'd be in jail. If I were president, you'd be in jail. Right. And everybody went, oh, yeah, dude, this is the guy. And it's just so wild to me. Like you're mentioning, and you show in that post, enjoy the rally at the Q. And then what's the stadium called? The Q. So do I believe that QAnon is 100% real? I'm a skeptic, so I'm going to give you 90-10. I do believe it's real because I want it to be real. I'm not part of the QAnon cult, as they like to say, but I want it to be real because I'm so sick of being screwed over this whole time. I want everybody, doesn't matter who it is, again, to use the phrase, no one is above the law, right? I want everybody who's done something wrong, Adam Schiff, everybody who's done something wrong, I want them perp walked. That's what this country needs,
It does.
And Q has alluded to so many things, and that's why people are, all right, who's behind it? If Trump's just part of it, who's actually behind it? And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, there's been so many Q posts, but they talk about Camelot, right? Do you remember if any particular Q posts use the word Camelot?
About Camelot, and then like the Knights of the Round Table,
right?
Type of concept. Yeah, there is some of that peppered through. Yeah.
Right. And I know there's so much that it would be so hard. This is such a broad topic over so many years now. I know it's so hard to focus in on a few things. And I know you've prepared a couple things, like with that post that you just showed us. So what else have you got to feed this thing?
So what I think is important, because especially if we're speaking to people who are still on the fence about whether or not Q is legitimately working with Trump? Because there's two separate questions in my mind. And this is where I think maybe that 90-10 will disappear and it'll become 100 for one of the two, and maybe 90, maybe 80-20 for the other, right? That you'll have to decide. But I think the first question is whether or not Q is working with Trump. And I think that can be demonstrated 100%.
Right.
The following, for me, the more interesting and more nebulous question is it for our good as we're being told, or is it only apparently for our good?
Right.
And that's where I want to believe 90-10 with you. Right. But in my gut, I'm feeling it used to be 10-90.
Right.
Initially, it was 100. After 2020 and the toxic jab and Operation Warp Speed and all that other garbage, and then him stepping back and allowing all this carnage in the world while he was clearly pulling the strings, and there was a continuity of government operation behind the scenes while Biden was just a puppet. His entire presidency is going to be delegitimized. But I have a moral problem with that.
Right.
All of that stuff, especially the jab with all the deaths and things. So that's when I start to say, okay, is this Operation Freedom similar to under the communist, the Iron Curtain of communism in the USSR, where they literally just had this psyop in order to seduce the people who were passionate enough about their country to put up a fight, to keep them quiet and passive long enough till they had a centralized control sufficient to not be threatened by the population.
Right.
Possibly.
Right. And I think your moral dilemma comes from, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it comes from, at least my moral dilemma, and I think we probably feel the same way, that it's the same argument as, if there is a God, then why do little kids get cancer? You know, if Trump's behind all of this and pulling Biden's, strings, and Biden's just a puppet, then why did Trump let us go through the last 4 years of bullshit? Is that kind of where you're going?
Similar. I wouldn't draw the parallel between God and why does evil exist in the world, and necessarily, but I do understand. I agree with what you're saying about how Biden. Why would Trump allow, if he's truly a good man fighting for the good of everybody in this country, then why would he allow and actually promote warp speed? Now, up until the election, if he had to, because there were so many fluoridated stairs, so many NPCs who didn't, and he had to win, assuming the elections were actually honest, which I don't think anybody believes anymore.
Right.
But like, that's the issue I have. So I can understand the strategy behind kind of soft pedaling and playing in neutral. Oh, trust the experts until 2020 is resolved. At that point, him continuing to promote the boosters, even, to me, was just contributing to unnecessary casualties in the population.
Right.
And that's a problem. Like, if he's truly in our corner, I don't understand how those two things go together.
Right. And I mean, one of the conspiracy theories behind a lot of this was the fact that, and this may be part of Q as well, but one of the things was the country had to go through the darkest of darkest times. Or was it 10 days of darkness and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
He had to go through hell before the country could wake up and people could see what's been going on.
In fact, multiple times Q said, some people, you can't tell them the truth. You have to show them.
Right.
So I fully agree with that.
Right.
I fully agree with a lot of what Q said. I mean, Q dropped and revealed a lot of really important things. It's just, to what end is the question that still is I'm less confident about than I was back in the day. But what's clear is National Guard being deployed in every city in the country under guise of crowd control or other motive that's what we're starting to see happen now. Like, there's so many things when you start checking boxes, there's so many things, and I know, like, Vince and some of the other guys, Vince is so pro-Trump, but like some of the other guys on the podcast would challenge what I just said to you about my issue with him promoting the vaccines is, well, there's casualties in war. If you are trying to save the human race, not just our country, but the whole world from this dark satanic cabal that's been human trafficking and crushing humanity under its heel for so long, there's going to be casualties. You have to play the game. In fact, one of the most interesting that has yet to be clarified, but it's starting to come out of the radar, is Q multiple times said, we're saving Israel for last. It's never been mentioned once in all the drops for a reason.
Right.
What does that mean? Nobody
Right.
knows. I mean, we have conjectures, there's theories, and what supposings and what ifs is,
Right. And that's, I was speaking of Israel. I was speaking with a friend of mine the other day, and I was trying to explain to him about how I believe that the government of Israel, I got to say that carefully, the government of Israel has their hand in so many other nations all throughout the world that they have a lot of influence there. And it's almost as if Israel is running the show. And then this friend said, well, then you must be anti-Semitic. I'm like, no, there's a difference between people of the Jewish faith and the government of Israel. I can separate the two. So yeah, Israel, there's something to be said with Bibi shows up to the United Nations to give a speech and people from other countries get up and walk out. I think that people are starting to see through some of that stuff a little bit, and people are starting to pay attention to that a little bit more. And whether that has to do with Q or not, but Q did say saving Israel for last. And I mean, you just never know these days. It's just so wild day to day, man. It's just so crazy these days. And, someone such as yourself, because you've looked more into Q than I have. I'm kind of a dip my toe into it a little bit and want it to be true, right? You followed it a little bit more. So you're going to see something, you're going to see a drop, and you might understand it better. Then something happens. You're like, oh my God, I've got to go back. That's dropped, and I just see a lot more of it on Twitter, X, and other places. Now I don't see much of it anymore. So maybe I just got to do a deep dive into it a little bit more so it populates my feed automatically.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think, you just got to train your algorithm a little bit,
Right.
But one thing that's interesting that I think most people don't understand, most people don't connect, but the Q folks were all on top of it because it was seeds were dropped ahead of time in the Q posts saying who made an undisclosed trip to Vegas.
Right.
And then it talked about Saudi Arabia, and this is all in the Q drops, right? It talked about Saudi Arabia, and it talked about, and then we find out the public narrative is that there was this crazy guy in Vegas on October 1st, 2017, that shot, what was it, 59, 60 people, and
60s.
how many hundreds other hurt, right?
Right.
Mandalay Bay, right?
Yeah, got a story about that, but go on.
Well, so just to sum it up, kind of be more brief, you find out through the Q drops, and then was verifiable when some of the guys were like ex military or Air Force who were watching the skies, and you find out that actually Trump had a secret meeting with bin Salmani, the rightful heir to the throne in Saudi Arabia, and the shooter, that crazy guy allegedly, was shooting from the floor directly beneath the 2 floors owned by the Saudi Arabian princes.
Right.
There was a secret meeting between Trump and bin Salmani that day in Vegas at the Mandalay Bay, and that was an assassination attempt to try to wipe both of them out. unsuccessful.
Right.
But as soon as bin Salmani got back to Saudi Arabia, within a short amount of time, all of the other rivals to the throne, all the other princes that weren't the crown prince, but all the other princes that were all corrupt and in bed with the Clintons and all that other stuff, they were all arrested overnight.
Right.
So it's not a coincidence. And there's things like that that have happened all throughout Trump's first term, behind the scenes, very quietly, repositioning global pieces of power, global, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Ted would have called me out immediately.
Right. So my story on that night was the band that I was in that we were talking, not the one that Snoop met me in. The band that I was in at the time played Mandalay Bay on Sundays and Mondays.
Oh, wow.
And I had wheeled my equipment in to play that night. I'm walking in, and another buddy of mine who's another drummer walks in. He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, it's our night." He's like, "Remember we switched?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot about that." So I dropped my equipment off and went home. And I'm home laying in bed, and then just watching the news, and I get a phone call, a text message from the guitar player that was in my band. He was also in that other band. He's like, "Hey, something bad's going on at Mandalay Bay. They've got us locked in a closet. A guy ran by the stage with a M15 in his hand and say, 'Hey, you guys go hide.'" And so they went in like a closet. There was 8 of them hiding in a closet for like 3 hours while the shit was hitting the fan. And so the first thing I did when I started seeing that was I called my mom, because she lived out of state at the time, and I just said, "Hey, I know I normally play Mandalay Bay tonight. I'm not there. I'm home. We switched with another band tonight. Something really bad's going on there. I'm home. I'm okay." And then the next day, there's news reports, and I'm listening to the police scanner on my phone, and they're reporting other shooters at other hotels. And apparently earlier in that day, a lady had walked through the crowd saying, "You're all going to die tonight." And a lot of people here don't want to hear stuff like that because it's here in Vegas. And, I have friends that were there. One of my buddy, his wife was there, and she was dancing, and the dude dancing next to her took a headshot right next to her. So, I mean, and dude, they left while they were investigating and doing everything. The bodies laid out there. The bodies laid where they dropped.
I can't imagine.
Because right. So, I mean, in Vegas gets to be like 115 in the summer. So, it should have never happened. It was a terrible thing, but I don't want to think about what would have happened if it would have been summertime and those bodies had to lay out there. It's a terrible thought,
Well, and when you find out too that there wasn't just the one shooter, there were multiple other teams of seemingly spec ops or some sophisticated stealthy, they were able to get in and get out, avoiding law enforcement, avoiding anything like that. There was clearly some high level combat and warfare going on that the people weren't aware of, and they just had to feed a story to the people that would be somewhat believable, even though the one they chose to share wasn't believable at all.
And that's another thing. With that Mandalay Bay, there was people that had reported seeing shots fired from a helicopter, right?
Yep.
Right next to the airport. I mean, Mandalay Bay, it's literally a block away from the airport. But another thing I want to bring, when we talk about these official stories, I have a theory that they make them so ridiculous and unbelievable on purpose. They do it to an extent so a lot of people will buy the official story. And then some people that are a little more analytical and skeptical will go on, "Oh, that's bullshit. Come on, man."
Yeah.
And then throughout the days following, as more stuff starts to hit, it only feeds into the fact that you're already sitting there questioning the official narrative. So if they can feed us a story and a lot of people believe it, and then people like us don't believe it, then why can't they feed us a story that's so ridiculous that people that would normally believe one of their official stories don't believe it, but those of us who normally don't believe the official stories go, holy shit, that makes sense.
Okay, so no, you're absolutely onto something. Okay, so did you play sports growing up as well, or are you more of a music band guy?
I'm a drummer, so I'm a music guy.
Awesome,
And
awesome.
by the way, Paul was dead, dude. I swear to God. It wasn't the real Paul McCartney. Wasn't the real Paul McCartney I saw last week.
There you go. Have you? Total tangent here. This is hilarious. I just sent this guy uh, to my brother. I got to pull up his name because I can never remember his name. But as a drummer, you will love it. Let's see. What is his name here? His name is Alesto
Oh yeah,
El Estepario Siberiano.
is that the guy that does a lot of stuff one handed?
Yeah, he's a beast, man.
Dude.
Unbelievable. The way he will have like he'll have one stick that he manipulates with the other. It's wild, dude. On the snare, crazy.
Yeah, that guy is just so ridiculous.
While it's like sipping coffee or smoking a joint, he's like doing some of the hardest riffs in all of drumming with one hand. It's
I've been
so
playing
impressive.
I've been playing for 40 years, and I watched a video today. He starts this one pattern, and just when I get that pattern down, because it's in a certain time signature, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He starts another pattern in a completely different time signature, and then his feet are doing something in a third time signature, and it all works. And I know for a fact it probably took him a bunch of time to really get that down
Yeah, for
for the
sure.
video. But son of a bitch, I can't even comprehend having two different time signatures going on with my hands. Now, if I could break it down, I could get one pattern, and it's obviously a different sound source, right? So if I could get one pattern down, and then you add the other pattern and kind of bring it up in volume, so I can kind of hear how they play. Then,
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
practice it long enough, I might be able to get it. But that's just me playing from what I hear. I have no idea what I'm playing. I'm just
Yeah,
playing it by ear, and it's pretty wild.
it's really a testament to, when you see a human being that has developed that capacity in any area,
Right.
it's just a real testament to how marvelously we're made. How marvelous is the human person.
Right.
It's just incredible.
Right. Dude, Snoop brought up a good point when we were talking about BB at the United Nations. Snoop said
Yeah.
that BB announced Charlie Kirk's death first, and then right after claimed that they had no part of it.
And then he went on a tour on like 4 or 5 different networks saying Israel had nothing to do with it. That's
Right.
like Shakespeare, methinks he does protest too much.
Right. 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 So, I mean, we all know that, you know, uh, the Israeli government and like the Mossad, that falls into the Epstein thing too. Was Epstein a Mossad agent? Is Trump being controlled by Israel? Have they threatened Trump's life? Have they, the text messages with Charlie Kirk about, having a falling out with Israel and turning down the money that they were trying to give him? I don't want Israel coming after me, obviously, but that kind of falls into the conspiracy thing. And it seems now that more people are kind of feeding into the fact that Israel may not be who they appear to be,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And it's
Yeah.
you sit here and you
Yeah. No, I know. They're allegedly,
right,
they're not actually Semites. They're
right,
the Khazarian mafia from the Ukraine.
right,
And, even our Lord in scripture said that, that those who claim to be sons of Abraham or that claim to be Jews are not,
right.
And no, it's interesting. And yeah, I think it's all coming to a head. And one of the signs of it all coming to a head, and is Israel being saved for last and the storm. I do believe that, dare I say, I know people have said it a lot mistakenly over the last 7 years, 7 years, but dare I say, I do believe if the storm isn't already upon us, it's imminently around the corner.
Right.
It's here. And one of the reasons I think that is, do you remember back, what was it, the 30th of September, the very end of last month, when at Quantico, Trump called all the military top brass of the entire world for the first time in history.
Right.
Everybody was called an emergency closed door meeting. Him and Hegseth debriefed them all, right? On something.
Right.
This was reminiscent for me, and we talked about it on the Phone Booth podcast, but this was reminiscent for me of October the 5th. This is just over 3 weeks before Q's official first post. You might remember this. There was that meeting at the White House, and there was a lot of top brass, but not all of the top brass. It was just like the the tippy top brass.
Right.
Remind me about tippy top. That's a hilarious Q proof. I'll get back to that in a second. The word tippy top.
Okay.
So it was just the top of the top brass, and they were all like for a photo op after a meeting, all with Trump in the White House. And one of the and Trump says, I can pull up the video if you want, but Trump says, "Do you know what this represents?" He says to all the fake news, "Maybe it's the calm before the storm."
Right.
And they're like, "What storm, Mr. President?" And he's like, "Could be the calm before the storm." Right. It's like, and so then they're like guessing on what is it about Iran? Are you talking about ISIS? Are you talking about Pinko Polino? God knows what. They're just guessing, right? He's like, they're like, "What storm, Mr. President?" And he's like, "We have the world's great military people in this room. I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great meeting. It's going to be the best meeting." Right? Well, who knows, right? It's going to be huge. So, and they're like, "What storm?" They like push him. "What storm?" And he's like, "You'll find out."
Right.
So the two things are the one more recent is very reminiscent of the other. And it just gives you this sense. Obviously buy the premise, get the joke. Don't buy the premise.
Right.
It goes over your head. So if you don't believe Q is real, it's not going to hit the same way. But there's definitely something going on, right? There's definitely something again. So.
And, I don't think that they called all of those, the top brass together just to tell them they were fat, because that was a video that he said. And I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, that's brutal, and those guys are going, whoa, now I have to take a PT test,
Yeah.
So, and the other theory is it's the 3A Atlas or the incoming spaceship, whatever the theory may be. But I think that when we follow stuff like this, we're more apt because you've made way more connections than I have on the stuff because you follow it a little bit more. But I think we're more apt to be obviously more analytical and make more connections with it because we follow it more rather than somebody sees something, they see a post, and then they don't follow up on it and don't realize that the connection's made, like with the "see you at the rally" example that you mentioned. They don't make that connection, so they just pass it off as complete bullshit when it may not be bullshit, and because there was so much going on that we didn't know about before. Why wouldn't there be shit going on now that we wouldn't know about?
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. And yeah, I mean, that's what's the beauty about Q is because there is so much behind the scenes that we don't know about but he's pulling it forward. So, like, for example, one of the Anons said, "Free Flynn."
Right.
And Q responded same day, "Done in 30." That was it.
Right.
30 days later to the day, a intelligence briefing report was released that cleared Flynn of any perjury or intentionally lying or deceiving in his interviews.
Right.
And in the investigations. So, like, there's little things like that. Or when Trump was flying to North Korea, there was a picture of the Shanghai, as on their flight path, there's a picture of, I think it was the Shanghai port. You could see the big shipping port of Shanghai from the window of Air Force One.
Right.
That photo was posted first on 4chan. Then Trump posted it, tweeted it.
Right.
So, like, you can't, if you look and actually with an open mind, if anyone watching, if anyone looks with an open mind at the history of the Q proofs, and actually I can send you, it's called bookofqproofs.pdf. I can send it to you, but it's someone compiled screenshots of all the different posts with commentary and timeline and explanation, and it's fantastic. But yeah. What is this? Haywood.
3i Atlas is the phone book mothership.
There you go. The phone booth mothership. They're coming to take us away.
Right. Ha ha. Hey, hey. So
there you go. You know that one. I love it.
Oh yeah, dude.
Dr. Demento.
Yep. So yeah, send me that PDF. I didn't know that existed. I'd love to see that.
So I'm just gonna throw a couple other little anomalies out there, right? Okay. So one of the things I remember was so fascinating to me is Q was like Patriots and controlled, blunt and direct timing. Those three words are important. BDT, which is the symbol for the Bangladeshi currency, BDT.
Right.
Okay. Blunt and direct timing, Patriots in control, attempts, counter move prevented. I don't remember the exact wording, right? Within 24 hours of that post, there was a suicide bomber who attempted to blow up a train, detonate himself at a train station in Bangladesh. But instead of having a bomb on his back, he had fireworks. So it was a light show and only he had burns. Nobody died.
Right.
So before it happened, the Q team said they think they're going to terrorize y'all, but we got you. We got you protected. Right. And then this hilarious mess up. I mean, who does that? If you're a suicide bomber, who does that? Actually strap. Oh, there had to have been some meddling because nobody goes into with fireworks. It's ridiculous, right? So, but anyways, it's things like that. One of the other ones that one of my favorites is if you go back to, I think it's Easter 2018. So it was early in the whole Q saga. It might have been 2019, but I'm fairly certain it was 20. They always have like the Easter, all the things. And there's the Easter bunny and all the, like the on the lawn, the White House lawn, there's the egg hunt and everything. And beforehand, one of the Anons said something like, hey, we've asked you before, Q, to say something that was like, amazing, as I shared earlier, or something like that. Say something that nobody would ever say, like tippy top.
Right.
And then in Trump's speech on the White House lawn on Easter with the Easter bunny standing next to him, and follow the white rabbit was something that Q always said. So this white Easter bunny, this dude in a white rabbit costume, and Trump says, we're in good shape. We're in tippy top shape. Like, who says tippy top, right? It's insane. Like, you can't, it's delightful because it's so absurd.
Right. But Trump is the king of trolling people.
He is.
So do you think he's just trolling us?
I
You know
don't
what I
think
mean? To
so.
try to make us go, holy shit, it's real. And then you mentioned the white rabbit. And there's the I don't remember the exact name of the website, but there was the website with the rabbit in the logo, and it talks about the books with the amazing journey of Baron Trump, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's pretty wild. I mean, I don't know. I never looked long enough to know if those books are actually real or not, but that's pretty wild. The other conspiracy theory that, Donald Trump's uncle was one of the guys that went in and grabbed all of Nikola Tesla's stuff after he died.
Mm-hmm. That I believe, 100%.
Right.
That I believe. The following statement that people often connect that to is therefore the Trumps can time travel, to me,
Right.
is not reasonable. That's
Right.
not a logical conclusion.
Right. Here's one. Snoop just threw this at us. Breaking: U.S. troops headed to Israel to support historic peace deal.
There we go.
Right.
And see, this is my concern. In Scripture, we're told, and I don't know if you're Christian or not, but if you want to share, you can. I'm not trying to call you out, but for
No. We're
me,
good.
yeah.
You're good. I don't get offended. I don't go to church, but I think that if you're a good person, you're going to be okay. I don't really, claim a faith of some sort. I have family members that do.
Sure.
It just wasn't ever a huge priority for
Mm-hmm.
me. Doesn't mean I don't believe that there's, someone there looking down on us.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that's fair. So my point was, in saying that, was just I wanted to be respectful, but
right.
also, in the Book of Revelation, it talks about the end times and all these things that are going to come to pass,
Right.
allegedly, if you believe it, right?
Right.
And you have this great deception where the world is deceived into thinking that in the Antichrist, who's the godless savior of the world. So the savior of the world, and he will bring peace to the Middle East, is the tradition, right? That the Antichrist will bring peace on earth. And in the moment when the world is saying peace and security, that's when all hell is going to break loose, because it's not a Christ-centered peace. It's a man-centered peace where man thinks he can save himself from his own mire and his own sinfulness, etc. So that's the Christian perspective, right? So that's where, for me, it gives me a little bit of the eerie feels now all of a sudden, because we're talking even 40 years ago, Trump was on, if I'm not mistaken, Trump was on the cover of Time magazine holding a dove, saying that his great wish was to bring peace to the Middle East. And now here he is, how many years later, doing just that?
Right.
It's uncomfortable.
And that's
I mean, peace is wonderful, but it's a little uncomfortable in this context at this time with this guy.
Right. And we've done, as a country, throughout the years, we've done so much to destabilize so many countries. Right. And it always appears that it was done for a certain reason, but again, there could be something underlying that we did it for, so that's just the thing, because now with all of this over the past 8 years, and now with AI technology and everything, I distrust so much that I read and so much that I see, because they can fake anything now, it seems. So being skeptical, as soon as you see something, you're like, oh, that's bullshit. There's no way. And then I sit back and I watch every single Democrat tweet the same talking point, and I look at it, I'm like, there's no way that you thought it was a good idea to tweet that. There's just no way. And Eric Swalwell gets his ass handed to him on a daily basis, because they just post them. And
well, and also, like, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Sorry to interject, but it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Really, no two people will ever completely agree on every talking point of a position of a political party
Right.
unless there's some outside force compelling them to hold a party line.
Right.
So the Democrats always hold the party line on every single sub-talking point, even for the most
Right.
part, with very
Right.
rare exception. Whereas there's at least some legitimate debate and diversity within the Republican side. So for that reason alone, leave all the other moral issues aside with a lot of the other things that Democrats platform on. But aside from that, like just taking a look objectively at the two groups, one of them is clearly is a group of free thinking people who, at least some of them, are thinking on their own and autonomously.
Right. Right. And it's so wild to me, like you just said, like the Democrats are a tight knit group of people where it's starting to fray a little bit now. I mean, Chuck
Finally.
Schumer is kind of getting thrown out to the wolves a little bit,
This is
right?
another thing that Q said was coming. He said strings cut.
Right.
So
Right.
eventually, when those strings are cut, and I think the Diddy is part of that, um, Epstein is part of that. I think where it's going to go to other Hollywood influencers. There's other dominoes that are going to fall in that, control mechanism that was the strings that were forcing, So very interesting.
Right. Because I think now that you're kind of hearing the amount of power that Diddy had over so many people, and now he's starting to he has to face the music. I mean, he's going to prison. Whether he gets out early for good behavior, I don't know. Whether they appeal, if that's possible, I don't know. But as it sits right now, what did he get? 50 months or something like that? So he
It's
got
ridiculous.
uh
It
four
was a
years.
slap on the wrist. Yeah.
Right, right. So then we get James Comey indicted, and then I read today that either Biden appointed judge or a Obama appointed judge is the one handling the case. So
See, this is
whether
yeah.
Comey
So,
gets any time for any of the things that he's allegedly done,
mhm.
he's innocent until proven guilty. Although we want to see people in trouble for the things that we suspect that they've done and that we've looked into and noticed, hey, that doesn't seem right. We want people held accountable for it because they threw everything at Trump. They had a lady that said, he raped me, but I like being raped. Or I think being raped is sexy. And you've got Trump going, oh, she's not my type. I would never touch someone like that. They were trying to send him away. They were trying to take away they were going to bankrupt him and
Yeah.
say you can't do business in New York. You can't do. They threw everything at him. So of course we want to see some accountability, and it just seems like every time we might be getting some sort of accountability, then you hear, okay, it's been handed to this person who was appointed by Biden, and you're like, son of a bitch,
Exactly. And this is where I think the most important proof in the pudding will be. It will be the defining factor of showing once and for all whether or not Q is truly for our good or a psyop to lull us asleep like
Right.
Operation Freedom back in the day.
Right.
And that is one of the things Q says again and again and again and again is that even the justice system is compromised, corruption everywhere, military is the only way.
Right.
With the shutdown of the government and military now being maneuvered into taking charge of maintaining operations of the government in
Right.
the absence of the government,
Right.
it's starting to feel like maybe the military will be the only way. But unless something is done to purify the judiciary,
Right.
which even just the Supreme Court ruling against stopping judges from issuing an injunction and preventing an executive order for being carried out, just that one ruling is a huge win, right?
Right.
For the narrative that we're hoping is true.
Right.
So I think that's where, like, ultimately we'll see in the near future. It can't drag on much longer. I think it's going to have to, everything's going to have to come to a head before midterms.
Right.
So we've got a year left, really.
Right.
Maybe a year and a half at the most. And if we don't start to see heads roll, if we don't start to see big moves, and we are at a breakneck pace, my only concern is, where is this taking us? Okay, yeah, let's trim down all of government to only the necessary people, but then expand it again with AI, because that seems happening with Palantir. So that's where I get uncomfortable, is it seems like we're going in that direction of totalitarian digital control rather than oppressive personal or physical establishment control. Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. I think the whole AI thing, I, for one, am sick of seeing it, honestly. It's just taking control of everything. And then I heard a story the other day that when they tried to shut down some AI computers, the computers blocked them from shutting them down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know, if you remember, there was a story at one point where two AI computers started communicating with each other in a language. They created a language to talk back and forth to each other, and nobody knew what had happened. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to go back and look, you know, let's just hope that the Terminator movies don't come true, because that sure as hell seems like that's where we're going.
One of my favorite fun facts is that the same author who wrote the Terminator also wrote the Matrix trilogy, and that the whole premise is that the machines in the Matrix traveled back in time to try to kill John Connor before he was born and before he could then end up becoming Neo.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that thread.
And that the Wachowski brothers stole the story of the Matrix from the author. She sued them in the court of law and won. So it's actually not just a conspiracy. It's like legally documented that she's the author of both. So very fascinating connection.
Right.
And this is where, for me, I try to be careful. Like, I have my guesstimates. I try to be careful. I have my hopes. I mean, I'm just like you. I want a future for I want a future for our country, for my family. I want a future for whatever other offspring I may have. I want the world to be a better place. But then I'm also, so like the hopium in me, I really want to, I'm cheering Vince on in the back of my head, like, yeah, buddy. Yeah, I hope you're right, bro. You know, like, I hope it's Daddy Trump who's going to save us all, you know? But then on the other side, I'm just cautious, because I feel like we're always being bait and switched. We're always being gaslit. We're always being, and so there's just a caution that comes, and I think it's a good thing. I think that caution of not really siding either way, I'm definitely leaning towards, I feel like it's a false positive. It's a false light. It's leading us into a different form of constraint, but I am so happy. I would be so happy to be wrong. I would be so happy to be wrong.
I agree with you to an extent, because the longer that this goes on, like you said, it has to come to a head, and it has to come to a head soon, because I don't know how much more I can take of reading something that's supposed to be part of the Q thing, and then nothing happening with it, and you're just like, fuck. You know, the more I read and the more that doesn't happen, and again, that could be, you know, years apart, like you've already brought up examples of, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You just sit there and you see something and you're like, oh God, come on. Where's the popcorn? You know, Hillary getting loaded and she's stumbling, you know. Where's the popcorn? They said she had the flu. No, I want to know, if she truly was, brought to justice at Gitmo and hung or for her crimes or whatever. Damn it. I want to know at this point, you
I
know,
know.
quit leading me on. I want to know. You got to tell us at this point. If you want us to back you and believe in your message and what you're doing, at this point, something, like you said, something's got to come to a head, and you believe something is, right?
So I
To
have
a
to play the devil's advocate to. I agree with you, but I want to play the devil's advocate to our position,
right,
our inclination, just for the sake of
right,
argument. Also for like to check ourselves and see, right? So like it does make sense if it's an entrenched evil that we're dealing with, and we know this, right? World Economic Forum, United
oh,
Nations, Bilderberg Group, dot
oh,
dot dot, fill in the blanks, on and on and on and on, right?
right,
But you like if it's truly that big of an enemy, then it requires patience and long suffering to overcome that enemy.
right,
And if you look, so one of the Q says 1999, the start, and he's referring to when John's plane goes down and he
right,
fakes his own death. Because I
right,
don't think anybody in their right mind, if you actually look, most people haven't even bothered to look because that's how we
right,
are. And it's also far enough in the past we don't really care.
right,
But if you look into the details of the case, there was never a body found. There
right,
was never any indication of anybody actually dying. And then a few days later, there was a private party on a Kennedy yacht with only 17 people in presence. 17, Q, is the 17th letter of the alphabet. For those
right,
watching who don't know, that number comes up again and again and again. And Trump, actually, when he went to different sports games in his first term, he always wore the jersey number. Every other president has always worn the number, 42, 43,
right,
44. He wore the number 17. He did not wear 45. He wore
right,
17.
right,
Why? Begs the question, right? But
right,
I digress. 1999 was the start. John, we know that Kennedy understood the reality of the problem of I country, the small hats, right? We know that he understood the problem of foreign control in our government via APAC.
right,
We know that John was best friends with Trump.
right,
It's not unreasonable proposition to think, okay, maybe John did maybe this is because if you killed my daddy in Denver, I would go to the ends of the world and back to
right,
tear everything you built apart.
right,
I would. I would.
right,
Especially if I had the political connections and the military connections of the Kennedy family and everything
right,
else, right?
right.
So it's not an unreasonable, it's unexpected, but is it really unreasonable?
Right. And it's no, I don't think it's unreasonable at all that JFK might still be alive.
Junior.
I'm sorry, JFK Jr. Yeah, we know that John Sr. didn't make it, unfortunately. But I mean, that's a whole other, there's so much bullshit surrounding that right there that immediately when you look into that, anything's possible, you know? And with JFK Jr., that part of the Q thing was the guy, the homeless looking guy. I can't remember what's his name, Vince something, or that everybody claims is JFK.
Vincent Fusco.
Yes. So where's Vincent Fusco been
I know.
since Trump got back in office?
I
You know.
know. I know.
So
Well, and then with the inauguration, the faux inauguration of Biden, there was
right,
no 21 gun salute. They didn't play Hail to the Chief. He instead got it was like what is it? It's like the 13 or 15 gun salute. I don't remember. Pardon me. But in Arlington Cemetery, excuse me,
right,
which is where they only give those salutes to dead soldiers or to foreign dignitaries that are visiting from a foreign country. Those are the only, that's the only time that particular salute is given. And then when Trump boarded the Air Force One after not giving the nuclear football to the Biden admin, he boards Air Force One, no less, to Mar-a-Lago, no less. And one of the things Q is always saying is dark to light, dark to light, dark to light. Melania is wearing a dress that literally goes dark to light. So like all these little symbols all throughout, it's wild. It's wild. I've shared with you via Twitter 2 links, which if you want to share them with the people on the streams afterwards, on the comments of the streams or whatever, one is the Q Proofs link to the Q Proofs book on the Google Drive. So they can download the PDF and have it, read it, mark it up, whatever. The second one, and I'm going to share my screen in a second if you're okay with it.
That's fine.
It's a Q Alerts website. So it's called QAlerts.app. And if you want to just poke around and figure out, but I want to do a little demo that's going to be a lot of fun first, because Dan Scavino is always posting things. He is definitely on the in. And he's definitely we're on the Trump team in some way. I believe so is Elon, and I'm suspecting that Erica Kirk is. I'm suspecting that they're all in it together. But let me see. Scavino, not Savino, the soccer player. Dan Scavino. Here we go. I got you here on Twitter. His Twitter account. Okay, so I'll share this one first. So he has a pinned post right now. Sharing is caring. Here we go.
All right. Come on and pop up here. There we go.
Okay. So this is Scavino, his post. The pinned post is, and I haven't looked at this before. We're just going to spitball together and see what this brings up, because these are always very intentional in my experience. So what is this? This is 9:43 EST. Military time, if I'm not mistaken, that would be 21:43, correct? So let's come over to QAlerts.home, QAlerts.app/home, which is the link I shared with you. And let's just look to see what 21:43 post 21:43 is. So there's a couple times when 21:43 shows up, and that's not what we want. Where is it in the actual post number? 21:43. Okay. So in post 21:43, let's take this full screen. September 10th is when it was posted. Interesting. And it gives a delta. It gives a
28. So go ahead.
What's that?
It's September 10th, 2018. So go ahead.
Correct. Delta. Yes. So there's a delta. There's a 7-year delta. So request fulfilled is the name of this. So can I go back? It's over here. Okay. Yeah. So here it says, so Q, what this is Q reposts something that some Anon with his own, a lot of the Anons would do their own research and put together different infographics and whatever and post it to the 4chan. And when people were on the right path, Q would take it and post it, make it his own, so to speak, right? So clicking on that and zooming in, we see request fulfilled. Okay, so no POTUS tweets today yet. How about a 0 delta to encourage Anons? Okay. So then he says, he posts here. Let's see.
Oh, the Twitter link.
The Twitter link to Machiavelli status, but he posts at the same time POTUS does. So 15:35 is 3:35. So it's the same same timestamp exactly to the minute as when Trump posts, and then Q later shares it.
Right. So this is something that Anon put together, and then Q shared it.
Correct. And Anon said, "Hey, why don't you share us something both through the Q board and with POTUS sharing at the same time, simultaneous zero delta, just
Right.
to encourage us."
Right.
And what's the time? What's the time difference? An hour and 10 minutes later,
Right.
a simultaneous post between POTUS and Q
Right.
pops up, and then Q responds and indicates exactly, quotes this post right here and says request fulfilled, zero.
Right.
So this is triple this zero. He basically was showing the zero delta, right? So
Right.
anyways, that's interesting. So
Right.
I mean, it's interesting.
Right. So if you're looking at it, so to break this down one more time, and Anon posts, hey, no POTUS tweets today yet. Q, how about a zero delta to encourage Anons? And the zero delta means simultaneously.
Right.
So,
So the delta is time between. So when we talk
right,
about a 7-year delta, it's 7 years to the day between
right,
when something was originally posted and
right,
right. So a zero delta, zero, it means that there's no time between the posts.
right, right. So then the post gets made by Q and by Trump at the same time. Right? Is that what we're looking at here?
Correct.
Right.
Exactly
So,
the same time.
okay, so now my question is, and this may be something, might be a reach. We go to look at what Dan Scavino pinned. What does that have to do with that post we just looked at? That's the $1 million question at this point. You know what I mean? Is that
Yep.
a coincidence, or is there a deeper meaning to that, you think?
Well,
Well, here's
I
another.
mean, that's a great question. And that's the beauty of the whole QAnon.
Right.
Like, that's the whole beauty of being an anon in the Q movement is
Right.
no question is fully satisfactory. It always leads your mind to ask other questions, which is
Right.
from the beginning. One of the very first posts was, why is this relevant?
Right.
And then he keeps asking throughout all the posts, why is this relevant? Why is this important? So as we get to the point where, Trump has stated, the storm is upon us, he's tweeted recently. I can pull down the share. But he's tweeted recently, the storm is upon us. Now the Russian Dmitriev has tweeted something similar from the Q post. We've seen things like, connecting back to Q posts all across the board. It's starting to be even more undeniable, and
Right.
it's connecting dots. And even Trump posted that graphic with him standing there, and there was a Q plus in his hand. For
Right.
those who don't know, Q plus is actually when Trump posted on the Q boards, and
Right.
it was he himself, a message from the president himself, not the Q team, because Q is
Right.
not an individual, for those who aren't aware.
Right.
It's a small team of people, mix of civilian and military,
Right.
because Q clearance is the highest non-military security clearance, right?
Right. I know I've had family members that have had it, so I'm aware of it.
Same.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Right. And I mean, I don't think it's too far fetched to believe that there is a group of people working with Trump to save this country, and yeah, and it's, I don't even think it's just at this point about this country. I think it's more about, if this is truly a worldwide cabal,
Mm-hmm.
and uh they're controlling everything. Again, I don't think it's just about this country. I think it's about the entire world, because obviously, they've got their tentacles, to, pull from James Bond with the octopus. They've got their tentacles in everything, so I think it's not just about saving this country. Although to you and I, we can see a little bit past the borders and kind of make our minds up on what exactly might be going on. But a lot of people just kind of focus on this country because it's the country they live in, and I think to me, I do think that there's something going on. I don't know what it is. All I can do at the end of the day is hope that it's for the benefit of us. I truly believe it's for the benefit of us. I don't think that, Trump is the Antichrist. I don't follow.
I hope you're right.
Right. Right. And we talked about that, and you brought that up, and I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. But, I hope that, what we're going through and what we've gone through in the past, I think if anything, it's starting to wake people up. I mean, if John Fetterman can cross party lines, I mean, at this point, he might as well just convert.
And think of how brilliant and beautiful the plan is.
Right.
If this is all a plan.
Right.
Because they've got Tulsi Gabbard, one of the most loved Democrats, tightening the screws on Obama and company.
Oh, dude.
She's the one leading the charge. You can't claim partisanship. Last year, just this last election season, she was the co-chair of the DNC. You can't say it's entrenched party politics. It's brilliant.
Well, they made her out. They said that she was a terrorist.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a terrorist. And she's going to come back and go, you know what? Nah. And I look at Tulsi Gabbard and I'm like, oh, I'm in love with that woman. She's beautiful. But she is just, she's fully in fuck around, find out right now. She is fully in that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely, the whole administration is clearly going balls to the wall right now. And what's very clear to me, and I think anyone who stops to think about it for a second, is with the quantity of precisely thought out and timed executive orders from the moment he took office, he knew he was coming back, and he knows he has a short amount of time.
Right.
Everything is very efficient and direct and effective. It's all, and it's precisely timed, expert timing. Right?
Dude, Snoop just brought up a good point. She is Storm.
Yeah, white with the white. Yeah, that's true. Dude, that's true. She is the Storm.
Right. So, I mean, here's the key. I think if Comey goes down, then it's just going to be domino.
Q says the first arrest will shock the world and confirm direction.
Right. So, I always wanted it to be Obama.
I believe that it will be Obama. There's a couple other little there's a couple little other theories, but that's the most compelling, because that would really, if you take down the kingpin like that, that confirms direction like none other. Could there be another symbolic one? Sure, but really, yeah.
Well, think about it this way. One of the things they always say is if you cut the head off of the snake, the rest of it will die, right? So if you take out a general of an army, the army's going to fall apart, right? Because nobody's going to step up to take his spot. If you take down Obama,
everyone's going to start turning on everyone.
Yes.
It's going to be a shit show.
Dude, it's going to be, and I'm pretty sure nobody wants to raid Michelle Obama's panty drawer.
No, those boxers are just too big for most people. I think.
Big Mike.
So, okay, here's you just reminded me of something very interesting. I don't even think I've had the opportunity to share on the Phone Booth podcast. So breaking news here. It's
Exclusive.
gonna be huge.
It's gonna be huge. I
So
can't.
I had drinks with a former Secret Service. He's a buddy of mine.
Right.
He's about 60 years old. And I had drinks with him at the local watering hole about a week and a half ago.
Right.
And we don't usually talk politics or anything else like that. We just kind of chill and hang out when we happen upon each other there at the bar. And I said something. So I know he was former Secret Service for Bush Sr. and Reagan.
Right.
Those were the two that he was Secret Service for. So I said something. I was like, well, wasn't Bush Sr., wasn't he renegade? And he just looked at me like, I mean, he's 60 years old, but he's cut and ripped like you wouldn't believe, right? Like,
right.
But he just looks at me like, are you asking me? Like, why would you? He just looked at me like in disbelief. Like, why are you? There was no temptation in him at all to say anything, to confirm or deny, right?
Right.
And then like a couple more minutes passed, and we're talking about, there's some other people at the bar there, and they're saying some other crap, and I'm like racking my mind, and I'm like, no, it wasn't Renegade who you protected. Renegade was Obama. Evergreen was Hillary, and you protected Timber. Bush Sr. was Timber.
Right.
And he went from just looking at me like this to being like, he's flipping me off, right?
Right.
And he's like, he said to me, he's like, you probably shouldn't. He's like, you know why I like you? Because you're smart enough to figure shit out that you shouldn't know. And he's like, but I don't like the fact that you say shit you shouldn't say.
Right.
And I'm like, fair. Correction noted, sir.
Guilty is charged.
But one of the greatest little cute, because those are all code names that were dropped by the Q team.
Right.
And one of the great things is when the tide started to turn, it was around Bush. It was right around Bush Sr.'s funeral.
Right.
That's when they all received that note card
the white
at the funeral, the white envelope.
Right.
And allegedly it said, they know everything. Sorry. Bush, George W. Right.
Right.
And that's why they just all paled right away. Okay.
Yeah. Jeb shit his pants.
It's amazing to watch. I just can't even imagine being Trump sitting there knowing what they were opening, like,
right,
trying to pretend like he's not paying attention. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, they saw it. Okay, now they saw it. Toodles.
Dude, everybody else just kind of looked at it, and Obama kind of didn't pay. He saw it, but he played it really coy. Jeb was the tell on the whole thing. Jeb Bush shit his pants, dude. He died. I swear to God, I think his soul left his body at that moment.
Mm-hmm. You could see it.
Right.
Now, so another thing that happened, I believe it was within a week, I believe, before or after that. I want to say before, but I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. The descendants of the Kennedy family. So there's about 12 different great grandkids of JFK. All did a joint music video, and they were singing Timber, ba-ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. You know that song?
Right, I think
we're
so.
Crying timber. Anyways, it's coming down. We're crying timber. That one, right?
Oh wow!
And they were cutting from one to the next, and they were all like on like a video call, like spliced all together, and they were all like singing this song. But the elation that you could see in their eyes and the energy that they were giving was incredible.
Right.
And it just felt like something more than just a fun music video amongst cousins. Right.
Right. All
Well,
right.
come to find out, within a short amount of time, as I remember it, if I'm remembering correctly, it's okay. The internet will let me know. All the commenters.
Oh yeah.
Right. Within a short amount of time is the death and funeral of Timber himself.
Right.
An accident. Timber was head of the CIA when JFK was killed. The CIA is Mossad.
Right.
Mossad and CIA took down JFK for various reasons. Obvious, right?
JFK
So,
wanted to splinter it in. He had said that he wanted to splinter it
correct.
into the wind, you know?
Correct.
Right.
So how deep conspiracy do you want to go? I have one more little rabbit hole if you want to go.
Dude, I'm good, man. We could do this every day.
I know, this is great. I love this, man.
You gotta get you're talking to somebody, you're not getting that pushback from the rest of the fellas. So you're kind of right?
So this is very unpopular, and we have to use code words because it's one of the few truths still vigorously censored, along with the form of the earth.
Right. Oh,
is
yes.
who the Austrian painter really was and what he was trying to accomplish.
Right.
And what World War II was really about.
Right.
And when you realize the truth, and you realize that that painter was trying to prevent the globalist stranglehold of power that we are now under.
Right.
He was trying to prevent the suffocating advent of that power mechanism.
Right.
And he failed.
Right.
Trump's grandfather would have lived during the rise of the painter.
Right.
His father came over here, but that meant his cousins were still back in Germany during the reign of the painter.
Right.
Now, Ivana, Trump's first wife,
right,
in a very little known interview with, I want to say it was Vanity Magazine. It could have been something else. I don't remember the name of the publication because I don't think it's that important. But regardless,
right,
she said that his cousin would always come to, whenever he visited him in New York, his cousin would always come in and greet him, Heil Painter.
Greet Trump that way.
Correct. And Trump would return the greeting.
Wow.
But General Patton, even JFK Sr., understood that the wrong people won World War II. We fought for the wrong side. If that's true, then it means that Trump all along has understood the true enemy and the subversion. And he understood that the painter's mistake was a full frontal assault, something much more patient, much more universal in its scope, much more behind the scenes, much more dismantling before direct contact, much more Sun Tzu Art of War, which might be why he called it Art of the Deal, his book.
Right.
But so that's an interesting thread.
Yeah, and you know, when your perception of what happened during the Second World War, what you hear about is so horrific coming from the painter and that side. You know, because we're conditioned, and I just want to go on record and say, you know, I'm asking, don't anybody confuse the fact that I'm kind of thinking about this a little bit with the fact with me agreeing with the painter, because I don't know any more than what we've been taught. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, and yeah, absolutely. And I want to make a distinction too for people who might be like repulsed by what I just said.
Right.
The question of the narrative, it's not, nobody's justifying the slaughter of 6 million people.
Oh, of course not.
Nobody's justifying that.
Right.
But what's happening is the questioning of the veracity of that. because after 80 years, almost 100 years at this point, the only death tally that anybody knows is the 6 million that was actually already adjusted down multiple times by different governments and organizations around the world that did their research. And it's actually closer to 271,000. It's definitely not 6 million, like provably, but the 6 million narrative is the only thing. And nobody cares about the 10 million Ukrainians who died in the Holodomor, who were starved by Mother Russia or the USSR. Nobody cares about the other 50 million Catholics and Christians who were slaughtered in church while praying, and the bishops and priests who were hunted, the patriarchs who were hunted down and slaughtered. Like, there was a real, why isn't that something that's really reverenced and considered and mourned? How many U.S. soldiers died? Why do we not know that as Americans?
Right.
No. Why are we is the whole world so fixated on the 6 million, allegedly?
Right, because it shows it's the biggest horror of the whole thing, right? And it solidifies the narrative of why we went to war, right? Mm-hmm. It solidifies that it wasn't just, hey, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor and then we had to do something. You know, it just solidifies that narrative and makes everybody feel comfortable enough to go, you know what, we had to do something because they were committing these atrocities against, you know, this certain group of people. We have to do something about this.
And especially as men, we want to be the hero. It's ingrained in our blood. We want to be the hero. And so when they give us a story and a narrative where we are the heroes, it's really tough to look past that and be like, maybe we weren't. And then what happened in the aftermath, the rape of Europe by the Red Army, is absolutely horrific. It's horrific. So, you know, if it's all true that Trump had those connections, JFK certainly knew and noticed, as they say, right? Junior would have noticed as well because his father did. Junior was Trump's best friend. So it's not a far stretch to think that possibly Trump has noticed and known all this time, and he's playing a long game because it's the only way.
Right.
I don't know. This is my hopium. This is Vince. Shout out to you. This is my hopium, Vince. This is where I'm. This is the. It's a really interesting thought, but the level of sophistication of when that you start to appreciate the level of intelligence and sophistication, not only in Trump himself, which is staggering at times.
Oh, the guy's
yeah, he's genius. Stable genius, as he said.
Yes.
Right. Well, which is then hilarious because you've come full circle, and he pushes through Congress the Stable Coin Act, or the Genius Act about stable coins. So it's the Stable Genius Act, basically. Right. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I love that he consistently gets the Democrats, like, you know, he gets them to rally behind something that they're completely 100% against 6 months ago, but every single time they play right into his hands.
Exactly. I'm convinced that's what the Epstein thing was. I'm convinced that's what the Epstein thing was. Like him saying, no, don't release it. That was to get all the Democrats, because the Republicans aren't going to take that. No. We know there's good stuff there. We know there's important stuff in there. We know it needs to be revealed.
Right.
So we're going to die on that hill. And now the Democrats have joined us. Amazing.
Right. Well, and what's funny is you could just sit there and say, you know what? If there's nothing there, release every bit of it, because the general public will forget about it a week later.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And dude, our attention span is so small. That window is so small now, because something comes out in the middle of the night, the news runs with it for a few days, and then it's forgotten. right? Same thing with a Q post. Q posts something, it's kind of forgotten. And then later on, Q posts something else or something happens and people go, boom, right back to that. Oh, I remember that happened like you.
And that's the
Right
beautiful
back.
thing about Q is that it started to counteract in some way this intentionally
Right.
lowered attention span via social media that we have.
Right. Right.
It's it's getting people to think and dig and everything. I remember I spent so much time back in the day of Pizzagate. I spent so much time,
Oh,
and I was actually, this is my one claim to fame. I had actually found on an old archived DC city planning site, I found an old map of the plans for the subway system.
right.
And I saw it had on that map an indication of which tunnels had been dug but weren't active,
Right.
and which tunnels were planned to be dug,
But
and
never.
then which tunnels were dug but now abandoned because they came up with another route that was better.
Right.
And there was a tunnel on that map that I found that went right underneath Comet Ping Pong.
Here's my thing on that whole thing, and this is going to sum up my feelings on all of it.
I love it.
If Podesta, because it all ties back to Podesta.
Mm-hmm.
If Podesta is that much of an evil person to do something like, and this goes for anybody, if you can do something like that is claimed to have been done to those children,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's anything that's horrible enough that can be done to you.
I know.
I mean, when you
I
hear
know.
stories, Anthony Weiner's laptop caused cops to quit. They saw stuff on that laptop that caused them to quit their jobs, caused them to cry. And cops are, they want to
They're
be,
tough.
yeah, because they see the worst of the worst every day. I've got one of my best friends is a cop, and he's seen some stuff, and
Yeah.
and it's, to see things that are horrible is one thing, but when it involves children, it's a whole other level.
Yeah.
It is just a whole other plane of hell. And if if the stories of the adrenochrome and all these things come out to be true, I will. There's just no hell horrible enough for those people.
True. And this is something that Q said will happen. So wait for it.
Right.
There will come a day when he would always put they in brackets, right?
Right.
To refer to the enemy. They
They
will
them.
not be able to walk around the streets.
Right.
Down the streets. They
Right.
won't be able to walk down the streets. And that's really the hope and prayer. And that's where, I mean, I think, even if we're wrong about all this, and we're not,
Right.
our hearts are in the right place.
Right.
And it's really these atrocities. And that's why, like, I get flack from some Christians who don't understand morality and what everything is really about. I think they have a impoverished vision of justice. But I think I'm absolutely for the death penalty in cases like you were just talking about. And it should be a public death. It should be something that everybody gets to watch, or has, like, not children, obviously. You don't want to re-traumatize young or traumatize others, but it should be public enough that it's a dissuasive thing. So anyone who's considering violating an innocent person like that, an innocent child like that, should have as a consequence public humiliating, first of all, revelation of their crime, and then their death in front of everybody, and painful. It should be painful.
Right.
Because you have to, the point of that is not for the glee. We don't get any joy from torturing them, but just to dissuade others from doing the same thing,
Right.
So.
Right. And we all know, we all know that stuff happens. I mean, it does happen all over the world. Stuff like that, is happening. And the tough part is trying to process the fact that another human gets enjoyment out of that and feels it's okay and feeds off of the power. I mean, that if you want to get into religion, I mean, honestly, that's demonic to me. That, I mean, that person, that evil. There's no goodness, no good left in that person whatsoever. I mean, there's that person's, as far as I'm concerned, that person's not a human anymore.
I know. Yeah. So I think I've shared this with the Fun with Boys before, but it just it fits really well into what we're talking about. But the best way I can describe it is the most sorrowful honor of standing by a victim of sex abuse. Now, he wasn't a minor,
Right.
but it was still incredibly traumatic for him. He was internally, emotionally a minor, even though he was not
Right.
legally. So you have to handle it differently. But it was so humbling, so tragic, and yet such an honor to be trusted to be his support.
Right.
And all I could do is just stand by him and be a shoulder to cry on until
Right.
he felt strong enough and supported enough to seek justice for himself. Because that he, as an adult, he had that. It was on him,
Right.
Unless he gave me permission, which he never did, to report for him, right?
Right.
So, like, when you come face to face with, and I knew the violating party as well. He was
Right.
in a circle that I was part of. He was a respected member in the parish that I was in, and so it was a very difficult thing. But it's really sobering because sometimes it's heavy. And it's hard to believe that people like that exist. It
Right.
is. It's really hard to believe.
Right.
And you want the bottommost circle of hell for them because they hurt people who couldn't defend themselves,
Right.
And so I think it's totally reasonable and justifiable to want vengeance,
Right.
to want justice to be had.
Right.
So I mean, I hope that's what's happening, man. I really,
Right.
really do. I really do.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I feel the same way as far as, obviously with children and with people that aren't able to defend themselves, that shit like that shouldn't happen, and I feel that way about same thing with animals. I'm a huge, I love dogs and cats and that's
Mhm.
my, right. Seeing somebody, hit their dog or something like that, I go from 0 to 100
Yeah.
because that dog, it's unconditional love. A child is unconditional love. That child loves you no matter what until you do something, and that child is old enough to associate for the fact that I don't want that happening to me. That's not right. And as soon as that child fears you for a reason like that, then you're done in my book. Does that make sense? And
Mhm.
child looks at you with fear because you've done something
And they trusted you fully. Yeah.
right, unconditionally, and you betrayed that trust.
Yeah.
It's just
It's tough. I mean, yeah, it's
right.
well, and I really firmly believe. I mean, you can see. I mean, sure you saw it on my Twitter profile, but
Right.
there's a difference between the current Vatican Church and the Catholic faith. I
Oh,
firmly
well,
believe that.
you can go back to Father Malachi Martin talking about that back in the day.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
When
And Windswept House and the Broken Cross. That book brought me to tears. I mourned for the loss of the death of the church
right.
when I read that book. I don't think it's dead. Just like Christ, who died and was buried for 3 days, he rose again. So will the church, I believe. But it's dead right now. It's completely hidden.
Well, again,
And the Vatican.
That could be a part of what's going on right now behind the scenes. You know, that could be playing a part of it as well, because the church has such a big influence over a lot of the world. You know, so it could all be tied in together.
I promise you, I throw the largest party, and everyone I've ever talked to about anything like this will be invited. So you'll get your invite. The day that, and I believe it will be towards the end of this decade.
Right.
Or how was it said when we went to when Nixon promised we'd go to the moon? I swear we'll go to the moon before the end of this decade.
Right.
So before the end of this decade,
Not because
I believe,
because it's God. It was Kennedy that said that.
That was Kennedy.
Yeah, it was Kennedy. He announced it, but he wasn't alive to see it, obviously. And one of the theories behind part of the reasoning for his assassination was beyond the CIA fact, but he was trying to partner with Russia on a space program. And of course, we couldn't let, whoever, and couldn't let that happen,
Yeah. No, and so what I was just going to say by that was that I think by the end of this decade, I think it will be in the calendar year of 2029. I think the current Vatican City state will be dismantled, right? Because it can't continue. It is such a hub of human trafficking, such a hub of sex abuse. It's such a hub of all kinds of just horrors, and I welcome the day, and you'll get an invite to the block party.
Right. I just hope for all of us that the knowledge that's stored in the Vatican archives does not get destroyed in the process, Don't
worry, ChatGPT's got us, bro. I'm just kidding.
All right, man. Well, dude, we're literally 2 minutes from the 2-hour mark. So
I've loved it, man. I've loved it.
This has been a blast. I
appreciate you, man.
Sit here and talk this stuff and this is what I love about doing this. And this is I feel like I've had a little bit of the taste of what you guys do together, because we could sit here and talk about this stuff, and it was, I remember that, and it was like, that reminds me, there was a whole lot of that going on your side too. That reminds me. And I love that we were able to make that connection. And dude, we have to do this again, because there's so many. I'm going to throw you a conspiracy theory at some point. You do a little bit of research into it, then we'll come on here. We'll dive into it. I'm going to try to find something that's going to be a curveball for you.
I'm game, and I would ask the return favor. I'd like to ask you publicly now to come on the Philosopher King podcast for a deep dive with me over there.
Oh yeah, dude, of course. Absolutely, 100%. I could do this all day long. And I will tell you what, I will come on wearing my tinfoil hat.
There we go. I love it, dude. I love it. And you know what? Just before we sign, I know we're getting close to signing off. I just want to say, a huge thanks and much love to Ted, Vince, and Snoop. Right. We wouldn't have even met if it wasn't for these guys.
Right.
And what they're doing for just an honest pursuit of truth. None of us, we don't all agree. We're all wrong about some things, but that's the beauty of it. And so it's just such a beautiful journey to wrestle with these ideas together. I thank you so much for inviting me on the cast here. I would invite all of your listeners to come check out the phone booth podcast.substack.com. Check out the Philosopher King every Saturday nights. Every Wednesday evenings live at 7. Saturday nights live with the boys at 6. It's a blast. You got Vince for comic relief every time we get too deep and serious like we did tonight. So it's just great. It's great. It's a great crew.
Yeah, you guys are great. And like I said, you guys are like a band, and you guys, the way you guys act with each other is the way bands, because that's how I relate, right? Because I come from the world of music and come from the world of bands.
Yes,
when
sir.
you have guys that don't necessarily agree all the time, but can still get together and just, poke each other and rib on each other, but nobody ever gets offended because they realize the spirit behind the whole thing and that the friendship is more important. That's what you guys have going on. And it really shows, because I have mentioned that to Snoop before, that you guys really have something special. And I admire you guys greatly for that, because you not only do your individual podcasts, but the fact that you have one that you can all get together.
Yeah. That's
and I mean, what better way to spend a Saturday night?
Yeah.
It's just with your boys,
Exactly. Yeah.
So if I could, like I used to say, what better way to spend a Sunday and Monday night than with my boys playing music, and getting paid for it. And
exactly.
You guys, what better way is you spend, and you guys go for a while too. It's not just
we do. Yeah. We have to literally intentionally cut it at 4 hours because we go longer,
Oh, yeah. And
I feel like this, if we just went, we would go for 4 hours easy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
so
dude. I've done them before where I'm just talking to a friend and I look down, I'm like, holy shit, we've been going for 3 hours.
Amazing.
And it feels like nothing.
100%. Yeah.
Dude, I feel like we've known each other forever. So
same.
Dude, thank you. And dude, you just give me the day and time, dude. It's a Wednesday night. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, dude.
We'll figure it out.
I'd love to.
And thanks to Snoop for the introduction. Snoop Von Poop, his podcast, Here's the Thing, at 6 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday nights. Don't miss it. Lots of great guests. Check it out at phoneboothpodcast.substack.com. But thank you, Snoop, for the introduction. This was a great conversation. Good guy to know.
Yes, dude. Snoop is a good dude, He's helped me out quite a bit. So, bro, go enjoy the rest of your night, man. I gotta say, just because I do this to people that I meet that I dig, dude. I love you, dude. Thank you, sir, for coming on. And let's talk soon.
Right back at you, brother.
All right, man. Take care. Peace.
Peace.
Holy shit, that was so much fun. That was an absolute blast, man. Jonah, dude. Dude, it was such a good time, man. As I cut this thing off, man, I had a great time. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I had a great time at EarMob Podcast on X. Same thing on YouTube at EarMob Podcast. Please, if you've dig this and enjoyed what we did tonight, check him out, Philosopher King Podcast. I know it's the shit, and I'm guilty because I have yet to watch it. Dude, I apologize, but I'm going to start watching it now. And I feel like a heel for not watching it yet, but I am going to start watching it now because Jonah's a badass. He's a good dude, man. And he's smart, obviously. We had him on here. So again, Philosopher King Podcast, phone booth podcast .substack, I think is what he says. I'll share the link. I'll look it up and share the link. I'm an asshole for not knowing it off top of my head since I really dig it. But anyways, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Haywood, thank you, sir. Haywood, you blow me. Gotta love that guy right there. Snoop, thank you for the introduction, dude. It was an absolute blast. And thank you to Ted and everybody, guys over at Phone Booth, because you guys do an exceptional job with your podcast. And all right, everybody, have a good night. Audio version will be up tomorrow. So